Today on 50 Tastes of Grey, we're stepping into the noise, the political noise, the emotional noise, the food noise, and asking a deceptively simple question. What happens when you stop listening to all of it and start listening to your own body instead? My guest, Shirley Billigmeier, has spent decades helping people untangle hunger from habit, intuition from overwhelm, and identity from all the external pressure that tells us who we should be. She's part scientist, part storyteller, and part quiet rebel. And in a moment when the world feels louder than ever, her work lands differently. We talk about Minnesota politics, emotional eating, childhood food memories, the gut-brain connection, and what it actually takes to reclaim your inner authority when everything around you is screaming for your attention. This is not a conversation about dieting. It's a conversation about coming home to yourself. Let's get into it. Shirley, welcome to 50 Tastes of Grey. How you doing?
Good, thank you.
What part of the world are you in?
Minnesota. It's a little cold.
What the hell's going on in Minnesota now?
No, I just want it done. I want law and order. I want it done. I want to get back to our norm and get rid of the fraud and get rid of the protests and get things back in line.
What's the mood and the energy amongst the population there?
We're frustrated that this fraud has been going on for years. I mean, think of all of us who are taxpayers, and it used to be like Minnesota nice, and all of a sudden we're finding out that when we were Minnesota nice, we got taken advantage of. So
right.
This has just thrown us for a loop. And now we're like the lead news story. And Minnesota was this nice little kept secret that's a great place to live. I lived here all my life.
Yeah, no, it's been front page news and probably will continue to be for a while.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. That's a reason why I never do politics and religion on this show.
Yeah, I can imagine.
That's
would
tough
be
stuff.
Like over the top because I don't know. I'm so strong one way and I've got friends so strong the other way. And it's like, okay, let's just agree to disagree.
Yeah. It's a good idea maybe just to avoid those topics completely so you can hang on to whatever friends you still have remaining.
It's just so crazy that we can't have normal conversations, different points of view. To me, something's gone really out of whack, that you can't have a different point of view and have a normal conversation.
Now, aside from your professional world, would you say you have fewer friends now because of all that happened since the COVID shit show versus prior to that?
Oh, COVID shit. I love that. I would say it must be that for my beliefs, my alignment of friends have still aligns. Have I lost friendships over it? No, they just know I'm very strong in my beliefs and I don't know, maybe they just respect it. I have no idea. But I've had people that haven't been my friends and they know where I stand, and I don't know. They may or may disagree with me, I guess. But no, it hasn't been too much of an issue other than I just don't understand the other side. I go, what? To me, on order is logical. Being truthful is logical. Not creating fraud is logical.
And not committing crimes on the public is logical.
Right. So I must be missing something because there are people on the other side that feel very protective of those things, that they're okay with it. I don't know if they're okay with it. That's what I don't understand.
I'm going to guess that the other side says the same exact things that you are saying about the other side.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's what happens. It's just like we're both saying the same thing about the other side. So it's like, okay, are our brains different? It must be the beliefs that are really, really different.
Yeah, I think that everybody kind of goes through that. And nowadays what's happening, it appears, is that when someone is sizing up someone else as to whether or not they could be a good friend or a connection or a romantic partner or whatever, they always want to know what side of the aisle that other person is maybe coming from.
Yeah, it's like almost like a prerequisite now before the relationship starts.
Right. You need to give them a form to fill out.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's just so different than what I grew up with. I mean, everybody had their right to opinions. We believed in choice. Everybody had the right to their religion. Now it's like, no.
Yeah, it's so extreme now.
Yeah, it's extreme. It's extreme.
Okay, well, that's our couple of minutes of the stuff that never makes the show.
Yeah. It's probably a good thing.
So Shirley, I wanted to ask you, before you were the Innergetics person, who were you at the dinner table while growing up?
We never really discussed what foods you should or shouldn't eat. That was never, ever an issue. There just wasn't that discussion. There wasn't the strong discussion of you have to finish your food. I didn't grow up with a lot of rules.
Give me a food memory that still lives in your body, but not your philosophy.
It still lives in my body. I remember baked bread. My mother would bake bread. I remember that good smell of the baked bread, or she did baking. And those cookies, those chocolate chip cookies, they were just wonderful. And my mother had a garden, so there was a lot of fresh vegetables and stuff. So that was all pretty much good memories.
When your mom put down the food, I'm assuming your mom was the primary cook in your family, but when she put it down, was it just like, go ahead and enjoy, kids, enjoy, eat what you want. We're having such and such this evening for dinner, and you guys would just be able to enjoy food together without any kind of guilt or shame or weirdness?
Right. That's exactly what it was like. I was probably more unusual. And for me and it's probably why I could go deep into my gut brain, because I wasn't, it wasn't uncomfortable for me to do that. I just wanted to figure it out. I was always looking to figure out, because I would feel that calm, but there was no calm with size and weight. I didn't feel that. And so I was always looking for, what is that? What's that agitation that I feel? This whole thing about size and weight and what you're eating, what you're not eating. So it was self-driven for me, I would say.
Interesting. So then what was the moment, an actual moment, when you realized you were going to spend the rest of your life helping people learn how to eat correctly?
Okay. That angst that I felt in high school, it of course followed me into college, and it was still there. And I would, I enjoyed food and I wanted to enjoy food, and I thought, then I'd overeat, and then I'd have to cut back, and then I'd have to figure out how to lose it. And even when I went into teaching, that's when I realized, my word, this is a major issue. These junior high girls hate their body. They are constantly thinking about what they should eat and what they shouldn't eat. And they're in junior high. I thought, they're not living their life. They're frustrated with this thing. It's consuming their life. It's taking away, they've got enough issues moving from junior high to senior high without this. And that was my moment. I thought, I'm going to figure this out. My undergraduate and graduate were both from the University of Minnesota. And at that time I thought, all right, I'm going to figure out this weight thing. I'm going to go on for a PhD, but back in the 70s, you couldn't kind of create your own program. You had to be like one lane. And I thought, that's not going to work for me, because I don't think it's just one thing. I don't think it's just nutrition. I don't think it's just psychology. I don't think it's just exercise. So I thought, I'm going to do this on my own. And I started doing some research, and I thought, okay, something doesn't feel right. Something's wrong. And then I heard the word hunger, and I knew somehow in me, I knew that was the answer. And so I thought, I'm going to figure this out myself, because anything that I was doing in academia wasn't working. It just, nothing made sense to me. It didn't feel right. Unbeknownst to me, what that angst was my gut brain. So I've been working with the gut brain since I felt that angst in high school about my weight.
Did all of this kind of grow out of clarity, frustration, rebellion? What was it for you that made you jump into this realm or this field?
I felt I shouldn't have that frustration about size and weight. I thought, we're not meant to have storage. That's for a famine. And I hadn't heard of one coming. And even biblically, it's like, do not worry what you should eat. And I thought, this does not make sense. Our body and our food were supposed to give us energy. They weren't supposed to drain us energy and consume our minds. They were supposed to give us the energy to live our lives. Life is complicated. I thought, eating is not. I know how to chew, eat, and swallow. What is the issue here? Why is the start and stop so easy? I know how to put my fork up. I know how to put it down. What's the issue? So it was more out of frustration, and I always wanted to resolve things. I wanted to get to the bottom of it. That was just my nature. And so that was how I started on my mission.
Okay. Now that's interesting, because you were talking about what causes all this. What about the nature versus nurture aspect of growing up in terms of when someone puts that fork into their mouth, or what choices they make to what kinds of foods they might want to have?
That's where what I learned is that as an infant, we're born with over 10,000 taste buds. 10,000. That's all in our gut brain. And what you realize is, okay, now that's making sense. Because have you ever seen the research flip-flop? Like one day this is good, the next day, nope, not so good. And then one day you should eat fats, and then another day, no, it's really about carbs.
Are you
One
talking
day-
about the science that comes through and what they offer to us as to what to do?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, it does flip-flop a lot.
Yeah.
Like, I wonder every morning when I have my 6 cups of coffee, whether it's good today according to the scientists or not.
Well, guess what? That's your choice and how you
Right.
feel, because somebody can have a reaction to coffee that somebody else doesn't.
Right.
And so that's why the research keeps coming out different, because they're studying different groups of people. So if I say to you, the research shows that shrimp is healthy, but you eat it and you have a reaction, who's the final authority? You are, because you're the one having the reaction. And your
Exactly.
body is different than somebody else's. So what I do is I teach people how to get back to their own wisdom. I thought, no, we got to get back to choice. That makes sense to me. Choose what you want, see how it feels to you, and then make your decision if it's healthy or not.
So would you advocate then that people eat the foods that make them feel good? Is it just like eat whatever it is that you feel good eating?
Yes, you need to make your own choices, because choice is identity. And if you don't own what sustains your life, food that goes into your body, you don't own that. We've got to be able to own that. That's ours and ours alone. And people have lost confidence in what they should eat and what they shouldn't eat. That's the problem. They've lost confidence because they're listening to all of the outside sources. And it doesn't mean the outside sources are wrong because they have the studies. But that's, like I said, you can read all of that and then you see, what does that feel like to me? But first, what I have people do is really connect to hunger. So we cut out all the food that doesn't feel good because it's too much.
So give me a for instance of what that means. And that sounds like you just gave me the elevator pitch for Innergetics, and that makes sense. And that's okay, because we don't want to go too deep into this. But, how do people really know about what to choose and how to identify their hunger, what to put in their mouth?
Okay, I can show you right now. If you think of a hunger scale, 0 to 10. 0 is starved, 10 is stuffed, 5 is the feeling of nothingness. The hunger's gone away. You're not to a 6 yet, you're not crowded. So because I want to ask you, so start thinking, if you put your mind in your stomach, would you be at a 0 where you're absolutely starved, you've passed the growling stomach? Would you be at a 10, you're absolutely stuffed? Or would you be at a 5 where it's a feeling of nothingness? Or have you just eaten and you are edging that 6 or the 7? Or are you a little bit hungry, so you're edging the 4 or 3? If you put your mind in your stomach right now, what number would you be at?
In the moment? Or
In the moment.
I'm just like at that 5 level, so I'm fine. I'm neither hungry nor not hungry.
You knew it like that.
Yeah.
We all know it. So you're asking,
Sure.
how do we know? We just stopped listening. Everybody knows. And you know in an instant. The minute you put your mind in your stomach, I had you put your mind in your gut brain where hunger resides, and you could tell instantly. You didn't have to study anything. You didn't have to go and do a research. You didn't have to have a nutrition degree. You knew instantly when I dropped you into your stomach.
Okay, so then what's the key? Are you saying really pay attention, ask yourself this question and decide at what number along this scale you are, and that will determine if you're going to eat and to what point? I'm guessing that you suggest that people go to number 5 when they start to eat.
Yeah, when they start to eat. Oh, that's what's interesting, because think of an infant. How do they know when to start eating? They know nothing. How do they know when to start? They feel something in their gut. That's hunger. It's a feeling. And so when they eat then, and then when that hunger goes away, when you're at that 5, it's gone away, they want to stop eating. There's your eating boundaries, your start and your stop. And they're very strong in both parts of the boundary. Their start, they will cry, they will let you know. When they want to stop, let me tell you, they will spit it, clench their little lips, turn their head, throw it, because they want to stop eating.
Okay.
And they do not know anything about nutrition, and they could care less about what size that diaper is.
Right. Now you make it sound so easy utilizing this mathematical scale. And by the way, when you say gut brain, The new research, the more modern research is showing there actually is a connection between the gut and the brain, isn't it?
Yeah. Think about this. There's really a lot of communication. That's our communication center. There's 9 messages to 1 from the gut to the head versus the head to the gut. There's a lot of communication going on that we've been missing. And the body kind of starts at a whisper, and then it tries to yell a little bit louder. And then it says, okay, you're not going to listen to me. Boom, you're done. You've got to pay attention.
If the core of your style of helping people understand what's going on is based along a fairly simple mathematical scale of 0 to 10, then is that all someone needs to know? Is like, when you feel hungry, eat till you're not hungry anymore, but don't eat past that. Is that basically the core structure of this?
Basically it is. And doesn't it sound simple?
It does. It really does. So what is it about that requires ongoing care or counseling for someone if that mathematical scale is just so easy for all of us because we're all listening anyway?
Yeah, it sounds simple, but you've got to go through the complexity to get to the simplicity of it. An art person told me this. I thought that is a beautiful description. I love that because what's happened is the gut houses, like if you have storage, and that's, I always have to say that that's my term for fat because to me, it's stored information.
Right.
So what's happened is anytime you've eaten when you weren't hungry and you have storage, that still is housed in your body. There's been books on the body keeps score, and so in those fat cells, there's information. And so all the reasons of why you ate when you weren't hungry, I need to uncover all those so that communication center keeps building because everybody knows when they're not hungry and they said, yeah, but when I'm bored, I eat. They go through all these reasons why they eat. And I always take off all the labels so you can really understand what is happening. Because if you're not hungry and you have a desire to eat thought and you eat, you've gone on a detour because you didn't want to really feel what's in the gut. So you go on a detour because people say, well, I might get bored. What do I do? And there's always a reason why you had the desire to eat thought. And the trouble is eating works too well. It does everything that our thoughts and our actions were supposed to do when we weren't hungry. And eating does work well. What does eating do? You've got to first understand. And this is kind of where I started thinking through my process. I thought, why is that eating such a magnet when you know you're not hungry? You know you're not hungry. Just don't eat. Just decide not to eat. Not that easy. So I thought, okay, I had to break apart what eating does for you. And then you go, oh my word, it does a lot. It gets you moving, chewing. Start moving. And you know how to chew. And it's always pleasant. So you can move from discomfort to comfort like that. Just so easy. And it gets you moving, chewing. But then the eating says, okay, you came over here. Now I have to help you out. You were supposed to do something in your gut. You were supposed to listen to the message, but you came over here. So I've got to help you get back to yourself, your identity. So then the food goes back inside yourself. You feel like, okay, good. Now I'm relaxed. But now I'm so darn frustrated because I had the food. What just happened?
There's a lot of shame in that, isn't there?
And that's what I remove is all judgment and all shame.
So how do you do that? I really want to know what the simplest, most unpolished way to describe why people struggle with eating. And I think about that a lot. What do you think the answer to that is?
Understanding, and it's never a failure. There's always a reason why. And it's never failing. When people work with me, they finally get it because I need to know their thoughts, what they're thinking, what drove them, because they don't even know there's a feeling that created that desire to eat thought because it happens in a nanosecond. It happens so quickly. You're in the refrigerator. It's like, one of my clients said, I just didn't want to move. I just didn't want to do the next thing. And she said, and then all of a sudden I thought about eating and I climbed 2 upstairs to get to that food because
it's very joyful.
It's very joyful. So I always say, okay, when you know you're not hungry, rewind. If you can get there before you eat, and sometimes people have to eat first and then they figure out what it was. It might be a multitude of things. It might be beliefs, but that's where I really know my work, where I really work on uncovering every single piece that's in there that's interfering. I just take out the interference that's interfering with the communication center that we were born with. The infants own it. We were an infant at one time. So we all own it. So I don't put a program on top of anybody. It's a process of guiding them back to themselves, back to their own identity.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Do you suggest to people that before they go and reach for something, anything, do you have them say, okay, take a pause, think about where you are along this scale, and then go from there?
Yep. Yeah. You said, you took the words right out of my mouth, Matthew. That was really good. Pause. You need to pause before you jump up and grab something to eat. Pause. Just go, wait a minute. Am I really hungry? And if the answer is no, then what am I feeling? And then I'll always have thoughts to kind of stay with that. I'll say, okay, if eating didn't exist in that moment, what would I be feeling? If I could just, because I can't be trying not to eat, then I'm already on the path. Trying not to eat will never work. If you say, I'm just not going to eat, I'm just not going to eat. Well, guess what? You're already gone. And so I say, just pause, take some time, just sit there, sit with the feeling. And sometimes people say, oh, I just didn't want to do what I was doing next. I said, okay, now I start adding tools upon tools. I said, okay, if there's something you don't want to do, always add something pleasant after you finish eating, or you're not going to want to leave that eating. You're going to want to
Well,
stay
isn't
there.
the something pleasant often the reward, i.e. dessert?
Yeah, when you say dessert, I love dessert. I eat everything. If it's dessert, make sure you have enough room because you're going to have dessert. That's fine.
To get you to the 5.
Yeah,
so
to get you to the 5. You got that. Exactly right. Exactly right. But we were given. See, this is what's so crazy, because we were given all the tools within us to handle any discomfort in our life. We were given our own thoughts and actions, plus 4 other pleasure senses to help us soften the discomfort while we're processing, to help. We have unlimited uses of our 4 other pleasure senses, but we don't use them because taste works too well. It's out of order. Taste has very specific boundaries. The other 4 pleasure senses don't. You can sit and go for a walk. You can sit and watch television. You can sit and read a book. You can sit and smell a candle. You can sit and listen to music. There's no limit to how long you can do that. Eating.
While thinking about eating.
Yeah, see, you got to get off that track of the food. But it was interesting when you say that, because I worked with a CEO, and he understood of a company. And he understood the 2 to 5. And then the next time he said to me, Shirley, I understand the 2 to 5. I know when I'm at a 5. I know when I'm at a 2 now. He said, but at 2:00 in the afternoon, all I can think about is eating. That's it. I said,
totally get that. The first thing I do in the morning when I wake up is go right back to sleep. But then when I awaken again, I think about what I'm having for food for that day and what I need to prepare, what I need to do.
Yeah. And so listen to his answer. So he said, what do I do at that time? I'm so glad you brought up your suggestion. He said, what do I do at that time? I said, okay. I said, you're not hungry. You just had lunch. You're probably sitting at 4 where, you're maybe a little bit, but you're really not. You're at a 5. You're satisfied. I said, let's just pretend that eating didn't exist right now. This is why I use that term a lot. Just put it on the shelf, leave it there. It'll come back. Just leave it there for now. Now tell me what you would do in that moment. And he looked at me and he said, Shirley, I'm a CEO of a company. You have just asked me a question that I have no answer, and I feel like I'm in the corner and I have nothing to say. I said, exactly. Because once you rob eating, it covers over your creative mind. It really blocks it from thinking you can ever not eat at that moment in time. I said, so now we've got to do some brainstorming. I said, so eating doesn't exist. Start thinking about what you could possibly do in that moment. And he said, okay. He started waiting for a little while, and then pretty soon he started thinking, I could walk down the hall. I could look out the window. I could turn on some music for a while. I said, and you always have to make sure that you can do it in your office so that it's doable, And all of a sudden, he started listing item after item after item. And then I said, yeah, now your creative mind has surfaced. Eating had just buried it. And I said,
that's funny.
Yeah, but also what you need to understand is because food is a chemical that it's going to change the chemistry of your body. It's food. So it will never feel as great right away as the eating. because eating is so intense. It's in your mouth. You feel it. The others are senses, but they're thoughts, actions. You're not in your body chewing it, swallowing it. Doesn't go to every cell of your body, that kind of thing. So just know that in the first few times that you do it, you will not feel as good as you would eating. That's the issue. It works too well.
Mm-hmm.
But as you do it more and more, it becomes better. And then then after you do that for a while, it's a process. It's a process. So you can see the complexity underneath that eating when you know you're not hungry. Because
Right.
after a while then, because you're so used to this intensity, this discomfort, and then the intensity of eating, that when you finally get it resolved, all of a sudden your life starts feeling flat. And then eventually that turns to calm. Oh, this is my calm connection to myself without that intensity of the needing to eat and without the food of putting it on top. And so it's a process of guiding people back to their own internal calm, which is a connection to themselves.
Is this a biological approach, a psychological approach, or just a personal conviction that you move along to people?
Interesting when you ask that, because when I wrote my book way back in 91, the woman that was helping me write, I would speak it and then she would write it and then I'd read it and say, no, I need some word change. She wrote for a lot of the recovery stuff. And she said, what kind of psychology is this? And I said, I don't know, because it's a knowing internally in your gut brain. I'm working with the gut brain because that's what
Right.
houses the eating boundaries. It also houses what is going on within yourself. And because you're doing this moment to moment, you really start learning. I ask a lot of questions to see what's the block? What's the block? Where is it? And I'm always asking questions. So it's kind of beyond all kind of psychology, because people haven't worked with the gut brain for eating boundaries, because that's the only place where there's eating boundaries.
Right. This is interesting. It sounds like, what if someone said this is intuition dressed up as a system? What would you say to that?
That's interesting. I like that because it's my intuitive nature. I knew it and I felt very comfortable because I wasn't fearful to go inward. Because I had a good base, growing up, and I just wanted to resolve this issue, this eating issue. But I like that intuitive eating dressed up as what did you say? I love the word.
Intuition dressed up as a system.
As a system, because I call it the Innergetics method, and it's a process to guide the person back to themselves. And all I have the person do is record their hunger signals. And I remember one time, he was a psychologist, and he said, Shirley, I'm getting really tired of writing down these signals. I said, oh, really? Well, then don't do them anymore. He said, well, I'm surprised you said that. And I said, I'm just curious why you wouldn't want to keep doing that, because you're learning so much. And he said, well, I'm just so used to going on and off things. And I said, well, I think you're looking at my process as a program to go on and off. This is a process to guide you to you. Why would you go off your own path? Because it's giving you information. It's not a report card. It is a recording card of understanding.
Right. I think a big answer to that question is that it feels so good and everything goes away when people eat. And I think that's why food addiction has become as big as it is. Plus, it's so plentiful here. Sometimes when not a lot is going on in your life, or people are depressed, or whatever reason it might be, they can pull 1,000 reasons out of the sky why they might eat too much on any given day.
What you said was because food feels so good.
Right.
So what I show is when eating is in order, it feels even better. And I can show that by stopping at the 5, there are 5 pleasures versus 1. And everybody thinks, oh, but it tastes so good. You know how many times I hear, but it tastes so good. I said, well, there's a lot more information, because when you overeat, do you remember the good taste? Or are you thinking, oh my word, I feel so crummy because I overate? Or why did I eat so much? And now I feel so sluggish, I don't want to do anything. So I always show people there are 5 pleasures, and that one pleasure of taste even gets wiped out. But if you stop at a 5, you have the pleasure of the taste. You have a good memory of the pleasure of that taste that you know you can have it again later. You have the good feeling in your physical body that you're not crowded. And you have the good feeling that you have the energy to move forward. You're not crowded. And you have that very, the feeling of confidence that you can stop out of 5. So there are 5 pleasures to the one that gets knocked out when you eat past the 5.
It's interesting. So we're talking about food here, obviously. I have to ask you, what have you eaten today?
I ate today, let's see, I probably didn't eat till about, I'm trying to think, maybe about, because I did yoga first, I probably ate about 11. And today, because it could be different, every day is different, I had, this is what I had. I had to think, yogurt, granola, blueberries, and a little bit of banana cream pie that was left over from a dessert that I had last night that I had reached the 5 and I didn't have any more room.
Are you much of a cook?
I love to cook. Absolutely love to cook. That's interesting that you asked. But as my husband retired, now he's taken over the cooking, which is kind of fun because now he's really cooking. But I do enjoy cooking. And that's why I said at the beginning, there was a chef that you had on. I love talking to chefs, and chefs love me because now people are finally actually tasting their food and really commenting on the taste of it. So I loved the chefs. I love how they can figure out how to run all these restaurants. And I love cooking classes. I would like to see people do more cooking classes than diet programs because people need to get comfortable handling the food. Because what they had the most difficulty is when they've used food out of order and they're actually working with that food that they've used out of order. It's very hard for them not to be nibbling while they're preparing the meal. And so I have to get out of that nibbling. And I just did a masterclass on a nibble matters because a nibble here and a nibble there. And I have everybody record every nibble, whether it's a nibble, whether it's a snack, whether it's a meal, they need to record every nibble because that body knows that food is there. So I need to have it aware that they're having that nibble. But working with the food is really, that's challenging for those who have used eating out of order, because they end up eating the whole time they're preparing.
Right. Well, as a lifelong chef, it's been my goal to get people back into the kitchen like they used to and learn how to cook a little bit, if they're not eating my food, that is. And, but people are all into convenience and they're not into eating healthy and preparing it themselves and all of that. And so this is definitely an issue. And when you see what the prices of fast food is, and when you see how difficult it is to maintain good health when you're eating the wrong foods, that's a big issue.
It's a major issue. That's why I said I would like to see people doing cooking classes and to make it like an ease of cooking and how to cook. I'd like to see people back into the kitchen and enjoy it. And there's cooking classes out there.
I think that's a fantasy, to be honest with you. And I've been trying to do nothing more than just help people get back into the kitchen, but that's just not happening. And it never has.
There's a resistance because they're fearful of working with the food. I want to get them back so they're not fearful of the food. And it's interesting because, and I had one client, she had this beautiful kitchen and she was never in it because she was too afraid she'd eat the food while she was preparing it. As she got stronger and stronger around the food, she became more interested in the cooking, much more interested in the cooking, because the whole fear was she didn't want to touch the food because she figured she'd eat it. So it was. That's an
interesting thought. I've never heard of that before as to the reason why someone might not get into a kitchen or doesn't want to learn to work and understand what happens when you cook.
That's interesting because I hear this a lot from my clients that evening meal is chaos. They would just rather not have to work with the food at all, not buy it. If they could afford it, they would rather have a chef come in and prepare it, set it down. And because it's so chaotic, and when they're already frustrated with eating, it's been out of order, and they've used eating to calm them, and then the frustration of the kitchen and not knowing how to cook, and they would rather just eliminate the whole thing and just put prepared foods down there and whatever is the easiest just to get through that dinner hour. I get that a lot.
I've never heard that. What's the hardest part of your method, Shirley, that is difficult for you to follow?
I was thinking about that because people say, do you still record? And I said, yes, I do, because I want to be able to feel when people say, well, I just forgot, or I did this, or I did that. Probably when I'm having lunch, because I've pretty much stayed the same weight now. That's not an issue. That's just not an issue. I was going to say, because it's really not difficult anymore. There's a freedom to, when I go to a restaurant, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to order exactly what I want to eat. And I don't have any feeling that when I when I want to stop eating because I just don't like that crowded feeling of the 6 or 7. In fact, one of my clients gave me an ornament. She said, nothing tastes as good as a 5 feels. And so that was always that's kind of been my philosophy. So if I start feeling the crowdedness of the 6, then I just know, the next time if I go to that 6, because sometimes that will happen, I'll go to a 6, or I might start at a 3 and start at a 2, and just know that it'll just take longer to get to a 2 the next time. But it will
Okay,
always.
so you're saying that is the hardest part for you to follow, because sometimes you'll have a little bit too much, you'll indulge a little bit too far.
But it's not that panic like, oh my word, what? There's no judgment to it. It's just, I'll just have to wait longer to get to a 2 now. And I love to eat. So
Right.
I really enjoy it.
So is that a contradiction that's inside you that you stop trying to fix? You just allow for that?
I will always, because if I go to that, I will think, oh, that's right. That's why I like stopping at a 5. That's right. So it just reminds me, oh, that's right. That feeling isn't so good. Now I remember that feeling's not so good. Nothing is worth it. Nothing is worth it. And always people would say, but what if you get to you're going on a trip and there's this special food that you'll never get again? So I always take it to the extreme and I said, do you think you'll never get a special food again? And, or people will say, but what if there's a couple bites left and you just don't want to waste it? And I always give the example of my son who says, they think that throwing it away is more of a waste. I think of it as a waste if you eat it and you're not hungry. So and I've taught my kids to be really respectful of their bodies. And so that feeling doesn't feel good it just doesn't feel good to them. So, but I would say it's not because people are going to go to this. They're going to end up eating a little bit. And all you have to say is, okay, I remember this feeling. Now it's just going to be longer before I hit to a 2.
Eating is so pleasurable. It's hard to put the brakes on. It's hard to identify how fast you're approaching the comfort zone of 5. And it's easy to go past that. Most people do often.
Yeah. And then they have this like, why did I eat so much? I mean, then it's like, that's usually the statement that comes after. Why did I eat so much?
Well, that's the guilt and shame part of eating.
Yeah. And that's what I want to get rid of. I just go, what is it that we need to learn more? What is it? Like when I work with my clients, I know they want to eat from a 2 to 5. I know that. I know they want to get rid of their storage. I know they don't want to eat till they're crowded. So there's always something to learn. There's always, it's never guilt and shame. I remove the judgment. I remove the guilt. I remove all of that, every bit of that, because it's all about learning. And there was one client that all of a sudden she just ate. All of a sudden she was just like into the eating. And they know that. She said, I know what you're going to say, Shirley. This is like an incredible learning experience. There's something big we're going to uncover. And that's exactly what happened. And she said, Marta, you're right.
It's like you're fending off this whole primal aspect of food and eating, right?
Yep.
And that's difficult to do. So where does your method stop working, Shirley? Who is it not for?
Everybody's human and everybody owns these boundaries. That's just the natural state of the human body. So I just go, everybody needs to do it. That's their boundaries. That's their right. That's their choice. They have those boundaries. And this is why I said that they need to own their choices, that nobody else knows what they're feeling like. Nobody else knows if they're hungry. Nobody else knows, that they've reached that satiation point. Nobody else knows that. Nobody else knows what their body feels like. So that's your inherent right to own that, to really reclaim that forgotten joy of truly enjoying your food and truly enjoying being in your body, because we're not meant to have storage. It's the joy. And you need both. You need total choice of eating connected to hunger. That's the joy of being in your body. And really, the most important part of that is when eating is in order, because that's the foundation of what gives you life, everything else surfaces and you develop tools how to handle discomfort from the very lowest to the very highest with your own thoughts and actions and those other 4 pleasure senses. So that's the main benefit that people say. They always come to me with size and weight. And they said, wow, there's something bigger to this. It's about handling life as eating gets put in order. So when you say, who is it not for? Everybody's human. Everybody has these skills within them.
Right. But what I'm wondering really deeply, because this is something that I've been studying and focusing on for a long time, is that we don't talk about foods in your method so far, because there are foods that are generally accepted as being satiety related. There are foods that you eat that will diminish your ability or desire for further food, such as protein. when you eat a lot of protein, you're not going to be hungry as fast, quickly as you would if you're eating a lot of carbs and sugars. So is this something that you're developing or something that we just haven't discussed yet?
No, because everybody will know. It's because there's all these rules out here and it shifts. Sometimes now we're into the protein. I think next one is that I've heard that's up and coming is fiber. I think that's the next one that's kind of coming up. But I've worked with people that have tried to follow how much protein and they just never felt good. I said, we've got to get back to listening to our own body. And they discover they didn't need as much protein as what the people were suggesting they eat because their body is different. Other people felt like, oh, I got so hungry after. They would switch it because they wanted to have it last a little bit longer. It's really the wisdom. I mean, we always hear about the wisdom of your own body. We just don't pay attention to it because the wisdom will tell you what foods feel right to you. And then people would say, well, what about all the processed foods? Well, I end up working from inside out, and it happens naturally because when you start tuning into taste, people want a strawberry that tastes like a strawberry. So it naturally starts working itself out. I'd like to change, I can't control the environment. I want to control from inside out that there's no drive for that. And they can really feel what the food feels like to them.
What is the most meaningful transformation you've witnessed and why did that one stay with you?
It was years and years ago. I'd never met her. Now she moved to Minnesota and we're going to meet like face to face because years ago, I was always on the phone. Now I can do it on Zoom calls. She was going to a college, a very good college in Canada, and anybody else would have put her into a clinic. And she heard about my book in Canada, Inner Eating from years ago. And she liked how I worked because I work moment to moment. Because when you have that desire to eat or you have frustration, I got to get to them as close to that moment. It's not like you sign up for a meeting in 2 weeks or 1 week or whatever. It doesn't work that well, doing it that way. So she liked how I worked. So we got her into, I said, no, you're going to stay in college. She was very bright. We got her into college. I would work with her and we got her all the way through college and through graduate school. And she got her PhD and has totally had her eating in order. That went always because it would have been a nightmare for her to go and not to stay in college. She was very bright. And I just worked under the radar with her to keep that eating calmed down. And another one I just worked with, it was about a year ago, a mother who I think her second child was 4 years old and the other one was 1. And she just had that dreaded feeling of having to go through and work that weight off because she had like 40 pounds or whatever. And she started that process, lost about 35 in the process, but had the tools and continued to lose the rest after. But the most important thing she said was that now she had the tools so her daughters would never have an eating issue.
Okay, so you quantify success obviously by people being able to lose weight if that's what they want to do.
If that's what they want to do, but most important, that they feel the joy of eating and that they have the tools now that when they feel that any discomfort, any message, I start changing the word discomfort to message from the body, they deal with it with their own thoughts and actions and they have lost that desire to eat to handle that. So the detour is no longer there when they feel the discomfort within.
Awesome. So Shirley, before we move forward to our lightning round, tell everybody your website, your book, where they can get it, and then we'll have some fun after that.
Okay, that sounds great. My website is my company name, Innergetics, and it's INNER, Innergetics, INNER. And on that, you can download my book that I wrote way back in 91. I wouldn't change a word of it. I'd use more tools, different tools, more detailed tools. But if you go into my website, you can download that book for free. And you can also sign up for a free consultation to learn a little bit more of my process in case you ever want to work with me one-on-one. I do have a Facebook. It's learn.energetics. And my Instagram, and now because I was never into social media with my age, no way. But I have somebody now that's doing my Instagram posting. It's Innergetics Method on Instagram. So they can reach me on any of those places.
So you don't really do the social media thing. You've got people to handle that for you.
Well, them posting is my material, but because I'm just always afraid if I click the wrong button, it won't go right.
Right.
It's just not me. I get a little nervous on all the social media.
Okay, Shirley, are you ready for the lightning round? A rule you've broken recently.
Eating to a 6.
Okay, well, that's big. Okay, a belief you've outgrown.
A belief I've outgrown, that I need to eat right away when I'm hungry. That hunger is something to Very. Hunger is a good thing.
It's a good thing. And so do you attack that right now when you're feeling that?
Hunger is a calm to me. It's not a panic. If there's a rush to eat, that means you're trying to get your identity grounded. You're trying to get something grounded. There's no rush in hunger. In fact, when you feel that growling stomach, it feels good because you're really grounded.
So you've been talking a lot about feelings during the show. What's a feeling you trust more than hunger?
My intuition.
Oh, okay. And they work together.
Yes.
All right. Well, that was very good. I would say you got like 100% on that lightning round.
Thank you. I love answering questions. You can tell. This is why people call me questions.
Well, we're going to turn the tables now, Shirley. You've survived all my questions. Now you get to ask me a couple.
Okay. So you said you were a chef, and tell me about where you were a chef, how you were trained. What's your favorite? I know these are a bunch of questions. Now I love asking questions too.
You're going to include this multiple question as one question. I can see that now.
Okay. So go ahead. Tell me a little bit about how you became a chef. I mean, and why were you interested in it?
Well, the proper order is learning. I used to watch my mom when I was a little kid, paddle around the kitchen and cook and create amazing smells, plate architecture, color, and aroma. And that turned me on. And that was probably the seed as to why I became a chef eventually. I studied in London at the Cordon Bleu and then left there and came to Los Angeles and cooked for people like Robin Williams and Heather Locklear and Eagles and Pink Floyd and folks like that you might know.
I bet that is fun. So what's your favorite restaurant in Hawaii?
It was Alan Wong's for a long time, but his business went out of business. So there are a lot of great places here, and it's a completely different style of food than you might be familiar with in the rest of the world.
My yoga instructor is from Hawaii.
Was that right?
And she just went back there, and now she's back here and is one above here today.
Oh, wow.
Okay, what's your favorite dish to eat?
For me, I do love king crab. I love all Southeast Asian foods, definitely a lot of seafood. And now I'm on a brisket kick right now.
And what food is it that you like to work with the best?
I started off as a pastry chef, and I've morphed all these many years later into just the overall savory type chef and put pastry in my rear view mirror, although I do like making that as well. So as far as favorite foods, it's just I can do whatever it is I want to eat. I can create. And that's another really good feeling. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. Because I love good tasting pastry. We had a pastry chef, in the town that I'm from. And then she moved further away. And I thought, those croissants that she would have. I mean, when you have a good croissant, you just don't want any of the other ones. So,
I know. Isn't that heavenly?
Oh, just the best. Just absolutely the best. The best. Can I keep asking questions?
Sure. You go ahead.
When you're at home and it's for yourself, what food do you cook for yourself?
I don't do the fancy schmancy stuff for myself because I've lived to excess for most of my life. I was a food writer. After being a chef for a long time, I wrote for Hawaii's largest newspaper, food writing and restaurant reviewing. So I don't have that same kind of thrill that a lot of people say, oh, I wish I could have this or that. I just make it for myself if I want it.
Yeah. Oh, good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you. No, I hope that you keep promoting people that get people back in the kitchen. I think that would be better.
Yeah. It's been a lifelong pursuit, although it's been a failure because people would rather drive around in their kitchen and go through a fast food place and eat it right there in their dining room on four wheels.
Yeah, no, it's so true. But it's part of it is because they have a fear of working with the food.
Oh, yeah. To me, I think these people are just lazy.
That could be. I think they
feel time crunched, and that's ridiculous also because you got to get in your car, drive, shop, schlep, prep.
Yeah.
People think of it as like it's an insurmountable exercise to be able to do that.
Yeah. I agree with you on that. That also is an element.
Okay, so Shirley, now I want you to give me an impromptu promo for this episode, something that you would say to people what you and I discussed here on the show, so it kind of whet their appetite to listen to the program.
To really know that there is a way to remove the storage, which is my term for fat, without drugs, and you have all the tools within you to do this. Every single human being has these tools. We just stop listening And there wasn't somebody out there that really took the time to create a process it's beyond intuitive eating because it's a very detailed process. And I know the process that it feels complex. As you work through it, you start developing that confidence that, now I have the tool. Okay. All right. I might have eaten then, but now I know why. Okay. Now I got to prepare the next time. So it's an actual process to guide people back to their natural eating boundaries.
Fantastic. Now, you mentioned without drugs. And that brings up the question that's been very hot for the last couple of few years, GLP-1 medications. And what do you think of them? And what science do you have on that?
Okay. My feeling about GLP-1s is because they're trying to stop the food noise and they're trying to minimize the hunger. And those are the two things I need people to listen to is the food noise. It's your voice. It's your internal voice. It's what is going on inside of you. It's a part of you. I don't want to quiet that. I want to have it surface to have you understand it. And also, when they're bearing hunger, that's a natural instinct, but people are fearing hunger. They want to drug it. They want to bury it. They want to run away from it, ignore it. And I need people to really know it. So when they start drugging the messages from the body, I'm not for it.
A lot of scientists, researchers, physicians, people in the medical world talk about the upside to GLP-1s is that losing the weight will affect potential issues that might have come up later in life had you not taken the GLP-1s to reduce the weight, right? There are a lot of associated diseases or afflictions or problems or health degradation that occurs when people are obese. So that's what they say is the upside. The downside, obviously, is what you said. You lose desire and you're out of control as far as making decisions for yourself and so on. Is that a worthwhile kind of balance?
Okay, so the good news about the GLP-1s is that it shows that everybody can lose weight.
Right.
That's the good news. And you can lose weight fairly quickly. And when I do this process, they can lose weight fairly quickly. And I work really close to them. So when they have that desire to eat thought pop up, I'm right there having them understand it so they don't eat when they're not hungry. So I can do what GLP-1s do without the drugs. So there's no side effects. This is more about abundance of good feelings versus deprivation of good feelings, the nausea. So they don't have any of that. There's just an abundance of good feel. And the weight falls off as a natural byproduct of understanding the human body.
Shirley, thank you so much for visiting with me today here on 50 Tastes of Grey. I hope you had a good time.
I had a great time, and I love the term. That's what hooked me into connecting with you is 50 Tastes of Grey, which is your name and taste. So you've had taste and also knowledge and humor. So thank you.
Thank you for that. I want you to say aloha to everybody out there in television land.
Aloha. And that because my yoga instructor, who is from Hawaii, she has all these different Hawaiian terms, but I do know aloha. Some of the other ones I can't remember.
Do you know any others?
No, I can't remember them.
Okay.
There's one that's have a great day. But I can never say it.
The funniest one that I always tell people when they ask me about that is that a lot of people have heard the word mahalo.
Yeah. What is that?
And mahalo means thank you.
Oh.
And you see mahalo written on trash bins all throughout Hawaii.
Oh.
And so people who are visiting Hawaii automatically associate that word mahalo with trash instead of thank you. And it's just so hilarious when we see that happening. People think that mahalo is trash instead of thank you. Almost all the Hawaiian words, have way too many syllables and a lot of K's and K's and all of that. So
yeah. Well, it's fun. It was fun doing this podcast with you. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll stay in touch.
Oh, that'd be great.
Thanks, Shirley.
Yep.
Take care.
Yep. Bye now.
Bye-bye.